Hello, everybody. It is May 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. So, it's been a couple of days since my last video. Lots been going on. Just today. We'll just basically focus on today a bit. um, so, we had some news on the domestic front, and then we got some foreign and election news. So, let's jump right in, and we're going to go with what I consider the big story of the day. Breaking: U.S. Supreme Court blocks President Trump from deporting Venezuelan aliens said to be in Tren Aragua under the Alien Enemies Act for the time being, 7-2. I'm shocked by this ruling. Um, I didn't have a chance to really read it to go into it, but the fact of the matter is, my argument has been you have people who have been let in, whether they filed for refugee status, given a court date 4 years from now, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, under federal law, they are here illegally. Okay, they have not been given a visa. They not. That's why they are illegal aliens, right? Visa, green card. They're not here on vacation on a passport, whatever. They were let in through executive orders and policies established by the prior administration, the Biden administration. President Trump, in my opinion, doesn't even need to invoke the the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, all he needs to do is deport the people and reverse the policies of the Biden administration. Again, due process, no due process in and following the law, but amazing, you need due process to get out. So this is absolutely insane to me in every aspect. It really delves in, like, why even have a passport, right? Like, why have a passport? So, like, let's say France did the same thing. I go to France, and I just hang out and whatever, and they're like, you're past your 2 weeks now. You're illegal. You're on vacation. You stamp. You stayed past. Yep. Nope. I gotta stay. You have to force me out. Then you're negating basic international norms like citizenships of nations, passport systems. Okay? Because then anybody can get here. And if you read Trump's tweet, he's correct. It's just going to encourage people to get in here. They're like, oh, I can't get deported. I can just be here forever. Okay? And there's a separation and a fine line between due process of being charged with a crime or returning people to their country who are here illegally. So clearly we have these judges, whatever. I'm surprised with Gorsuch completely on this one. He's so focused on due process, he's not reading the entirety of the U.S. Constitution. As if if someone is here legally and given a green card by the executive branch, for example, that green card, for whatever reason, deems by the executive branch, can revoke that green card. There is no constitutional right to a foreign national having a green card, a visa. There's no constitutional right for any foreign national to be here. You have to remember that. Illegal aliens are foreign nationals and citizens of other nations. How on earth do they have any constitutional right to be here? They do not. We, as Western nations and treaties we have with other nations, if someone is charged with a crime, someone gets in a bar fight or gets into a car accident, as they're driving 100 miles an hour, okay, they get charged with a crime. Out of respect, we go through due process. But if it's a lower crime, we can just deport them, save the taxpayers the money, and just send the guy back home because it's not a serious crime. But we can just deport him. It's the same thing here. And the head of the executive branch and the only one accountable to the people is the president. That's why the founders gave the president all the power in the executive branch. They are now just creating things out of thin air, whether it's the district judge or whatever. Now, in precedent history, I believe it is time to suspend habeas corpus because, first of all, you can just do it on foreign nationals. Actually, people here on long-term visas, certain green cards, you don't apply it. If you are here under certain pretenses, we're suspending all habeas corpus. It's been done by Roosevelt, Lincoln. So just do it, okay? And then let the games begin and then you can really get this going. If people get nervous, oh God, you're going down this road. Like I said, it's been done before. And if you have a situation where the border is not even an issue anymore and anybody can just go where they want. You don't have a nation anymore. So that doesn't even matter, even if you're against the idea of funding habeas corpus, because you're losing those rights of being a U.S. citizen. It's just pointless. Okay? So if you're trying to uphold this one value you might have, but the whole foundation is crumbling, there's no point. Okay? And something like 15 to 20 million plus the tops that are already in here completely having changing certain cultural identities, norms, voting habits, their histories, plus the criminal elements associated with the whole border crossing thing and the elements that came in that were criminal, and they probably weren't, they weren't most, but enough to cause problems. Okay, that's why traditional counties along the border that were Democrat, like Zapata County in on the Rio Grande and Starr County, where Clinton won in 16 by 40%, Trump won 80, 90% Mexican American communities. Why? Because they see the destructiveness of that. Okay, and again, this wave is not just the traditional that we've experienced, in the 80s, 90s of Latin Americans coming across. No, all over 140 countries, okay, flying them in from Africa, Asia, India, all over the place, China, Latin America as well. And also the negative elements, because while they were at the border, dropping their ID cards saying they were, Juan Valdez, and then just given a phone and an app and a court date 6 years from now, and then just let in. No idea who they are. All right. Absolutely. That's due process. It's just insane. And by the way, it hurts the most traditional Democratic Party constituencies as well as all working class people, because they live in their community. Remember when they went to Martha's Vineyard? They live there 24 hours and then bust out. Not my town. So anyway, that was the news of the day. It's time to suspend habeas corpus. All right, no games. All right, it's war. All right, so moving on. Boom, let's go to the big, beautiful bill. All right, so if you don't know, in the House Budget Committee, the bill failed 21-16. 4 Republicans joined the Democrats, not because they lied with the Democrats, but because they were coming from the right. And they were, as you can see here, Chip Roy of Texas, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Josh Brashear, I think, is Texas, and Andrew Clyde is Arizona. They've been traditional budget hawks. A couple of these guys voted against Speaker. They've been pretty consistent on this, and I'm not surprised. Because what Johnson has with the 3-seat majority is he's got guys like Lawler and LaLota and these blue state Republicans who all they care about is the SALT deduction, okay? Which, by the way, this bill has already raised to 30, which means the modeling that they have to use for reconciliation to get this passed, it's going to show up, it's going to reduce revenue, right? So now because of that, you would have to now make greater cuts. But these are the same liberal Republicans that don't want the cuts either. Okay? We cannot increase the deficit. Okay? We cannot. Don't be Republicans then. That's the problem with these blue state Republicans. You proxy vote to the county chair. He picks the person who's either a lawyer or a government person, been in the party. They're interested in their institutions, their party, and their whole little world. These are not principled conservatives. They're definitely not MAGA. They're definitely not even conservative. But we got to placate these guys to do that. Here's a great idea if you want to fix SALT deduction. Lower your state income taxes. Restructure all your government workers' contracts. End the corruption in your states. Okay? Stop having all these people leave your states. Lowering the revenues that you're bringing in. Then you won't have to worry about the SALT deduction. And it's already going up 30 from 10,000 to 30,000 in this bill. All right. It's insane. So after a major inflationary period, when you have massive amounts of price increases, those price increases borne by the majority of Americans, you want to give de facto tax cuts to the wealthiest. That's a great idea. Plus, these deficits are fueling the price parity, damaging purchasing power of the dollar right here in the United States. Okay, further a de facto tax and an asset transfer from working Americans to the wealthiest in society. Okay, that is not economic, you know, freedom, economic liberty, capitalism, whatever you want to call it at all. Okay, and they also want to keep spending and bring back money. I remember one congressman, he pimped out, like back to back tweets. One is Biden caused inflation, but then he's bragging about how much stuff he got in an omnibus bill for his district. It's like, what? How useless are you? Okay, salt deductions. It's ridiculous. Why should someone making the same amount of money in a suburb of a different city in a different state pay more federal income taxes just because you have higher state income tax? That's state. It's your state representatives, your state governor, and that's how it goes. So now, what do we worry about? Okay. Ah, wrong slide. Apologize. What are we worried about? Breaking. Moody's strips the U.S. government of top credit rating, saying presidents and lawmakers have failed to reverse rising debts. That's what we're fearing. No, the bill's got good stuff. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. I like that. No tax on security. Don't like that. Okay. It is an insurance program as a safety net that every pays in and pays out. There's no reason why someone making $2 million in retirement has $10 million of assets should not have to pay on the Social Security. Should not be exempted. Okay, that should be paid, or just don't receive it. Have a cutoff. Okay, because that is a security blanket, so we don't have a bunch of homeless people when they turn 70 wandering around. Okay, excuse me, and it's a supplement that everybody pays into, everybody pays out. Now, the ratio of workers, because of people are living longer and so forth, among other things, okay, the ratio of workers paying in to paying out is completely changed, and it's hard. So you have to change it a little bit of a system. You say, who's it? What's it designed for? If you don't need it at all, then either don't have it for them or you tax it at a higher level. But for people under a certain amount, I don't know what number you choose, et cetera. I'd have to look at it deeper, but that's what you do a phase down. And then when you hit a certain income, so everybody can afford food, medicine, their rents, the important things, okay, in life. All right. So, and that's the issues in here with this bill. So, but with this could lead to rising interest rates. That's not going to be good. Powell will want to raise. He's already should be lowering rates now to stimulate domestic economic growth, but he's not. I believe for political purposes, but now he can justify even raising them. Oh, we got to raise rates, but you know what? He's not going to do it. The market's going to do it too, because now you lost that rating. There's a certain increased risk. So when there's certain increased risk, your coupon has to go up, right? That's why longer bonds have traditionally higher yields. Okay. And that hasn't been the case over the last 4 or 5 years. The yield curve has been more flat. And why is that? Because people don't want to buy longer term U.S. debts and be on the hook for that because of the uncertainty of our deficits and what that causes to the dollar and the economy. All right. That's why central banks have been hoarding gold. All right. So let's jump into some election stuff. So if you don't know, this is election weekend in Europe. All right. So we got 3. We got Poland. Let's start here. First round on Sunday, May 18th. All right. EPP, that's your center candidate, center right, maybe up on 30%. Naraki is the conservative candidate. Okay. He's pushing for he's a more Eurosceptic. He is a immigration reform guy. So, he's on the good side. And then you have the True. They're with the ECR, which is a conservative group more. EPP is like they're centrist, globalists, pro big business, corporation, that kind of, like a Macron, right? Now, Rocky is he's more conservative with the ECR group. And then you have the True Patriots and Populists, the PFE group, and the ESN group. Okay, they emerge. That's that Menson candidate with Khan, but he's pulling it at a strong third. So I hope he has a strong showing. Now, if you add them together in this poll, you got 40%. But this is going to go to a runoff. I believe it's June 6th. Okay, but it's early June. It's going to go runoff. It's going to be between Truskowski and Naraki. I would like to see Naraki win in that. I think he'll be good, especially with all those Menson voters if they come out in the second round for Naraki. And he's been embracing some more populist things. But a good showing by Menson and the KON would be absolutely awesome. Um, I think it's going to be rough in the second round. If these left candidates, because they see Traskowski like a really as like a Macron, they could stay home and it could lead to Naraki's way. But in the second round, I'm still favoring the EPP candidate. And in that case, I would want it to be as tight as can be as possible, make it difficult for him to form a coalition government, something to that effect. Um, Although this is just the presidential election, so it wouldn't be parliamentary, all the British stuff. But, but a strong showing would be really good for Menson. So the next one we got Portugal. They're having a snap election for all 230 seats in their parliament. Again, on top, the AD, they caucus with EPP in the European Parliament. They're in at 33%. And PS, that's their left wing party in at 26%. But there's Chega. That's us, right? The center right nationalists and economic, populist and economic nationalists. Okay. And they're coming in at 19%. That's a strong showing. And if you look, if they do a coalition with EPP, which I doubt, but um, they would be well up there, and they get some key positions. But if Chega, can get that 21%, that would be astounding. They did pretty well last time. I think they got 17 or 18%, so they're moving in that direction. Either way, the real left parties are combined are at 12% down there. But it'll be interesting, and whoever wins with these three being that close, no one's going to really have a majority there. So that'll be interesting. And then the next one, by the way, Sunday, May 18th also. Next one. This is another Polish poll. That's right, I threw that on there as well. This one has Trzaskowski a little bit higher and Menson not doing as well. So you'll see what the difference is. And then also on the 18th, this Sunday, is the Romania election. Simeon, the conservative populist on the right, not as Georgescu who do well, but Simeon's polling seemed to not caught up to where Georgescu was, and he's really running on that campaign. I think he'll work closely with Orban. He's down in the polls, depending on what poll you look at, by a couple. My last video, I put it up, the same poll that came out. That's why I didn't put the slide up, because it was the same poll. It was like 51-49. But I don't know the history of polling in Romania. But one was a domestic poll, one was Ipsos. So we'll see what happens. So all three elections are in Europe on May 18th, this Sunday. So they're 5 hours ahead. So expect the what do you call it? The exit polls, and they my experience with most European elections, they're very close. Seats might float up 3 or 5% as the real vote goes in with the projection analysis, but like the initial projection analysis is really never that far off traditionally. So we'll have an idea. So they're, it's 6 to 5 hours ahead of us. So I would say, mid-afternoon, like 2, 3 o'clock, we should start to get some of these results, and I'll put them out on my X, in my Getter as well. So yep, those are the three big elections. So the other thing really going on is Ukraine. I want to go back to that slide. Here it is. Because Ukraine Russian delegation is meeting in Istanbul as we speak. Other stuff going on. So Ukrainian diplomatic source says Russian delegation in Istanbul demands Ukraine withdraws forces from its territories for ceasefire, adding that Russian demands include other non-starters. Well, my point on this is that since they control, depending on which of the four oblasts you're talking about, anywhere between 95 to 70%. And they will continue to take that if you don't cede it. So it's like they're asking for the inevitable. And I think Ukraine has to realize that. I think there's a lot of pressure from the Europeans to sabotage this meeting. All they're talking about is ceasefire. So It's going on. On the positive note, there was 1,000 for 1,000 POW swap agreed to at the meeting, so that's always good when people get to go back to their families. Although a lot of them probably just go back to the battlefield. But
So Keir Starmer,
here we
on
go.
behalf of the UK broadcasters, what can you realistically do on Russia, given the problems we have overnight?
Well, I think that what we saw yesterday and overnight is yet more evidence that Putin is not serious about peace. He's been dragging his heels, and I think it's really important, therefore, that we have absolute unity with our allies. We'll be working on that again today to be clear that there must be a ceasefire, but also to be clear that should there not be a ceasefire, then we will act together in relation to sanctions. But for me, this is clear evidence that Putin doesn't seriously want peace. He's dragging his heels, and that's why today is a really important opportunity to work with colleagues to make sure that we are absolutely united. And President Zelensky will be here today, so we will be discussing the situation with him.
Our number one priority is a full, unconditional and honest ceasefire. This must happen immediately to stop the killing and create a solid basis for diplomacy, first of all. And if the Russian representatives in Istanbul today cannot even agree to that, to ceasefire, to this clearly necessary first step, then it will be 100% clear that Putin continues to undermine diplomacy.
All right. God, I can't stand Starmer. The ceasefire, right? The ceasefire. Okay. Defensive lines. They're going to rebuild the defensive lines. They're going to reorganize. It'll allow more weapons to regroup as, the Russian steamroller goes, right? A bunch of villages fell in each oblast again today. Okay. The strikes are still going on. Russians are having a hard time in a couple areas because it has to do with rubble defensive forces, and it's really hard to do that. Like Chasiv Yar, it's like inch by inch in Chasiv Yar because it's just rubble. It's easy to hide. So if you try to move in there, it's easy to defend. It totally favors the defenders there. But Russia will just sit back, say we don't need it, and they'll just keep pummeling as much as they can, and then they'll try to push again. I mean, that's kind of the thing. But the point of the matter is that, as I said before, they're going to that way, and you're getting a ceasefire. Why the Russians agree to a ceasefire? For Ukraine to regroup. And the pressure on the Europeans, like Starmer and Macron, when they met there in Kiev the other day, earlier in the week, and everything, they want this war to keep going. Okay, and Zelensky's there. Okay, and he's getting the pressure from the Europeans, and he wants the war to keep going. No one's serious about negotiations except Trump. And the Russians aren't going to do the ceasefire. Russians are not going to withdraw from that. And they're going to keep Crimea. I mean, those are the realities. If you want to live there, live in fantasy land and keep this going on, then this is all just show. It's kabuki theater. Okay? It's kabuki theater. You bring no NATO, the oblasts, recognize Crimea because it's going to be Russia forever. Okay, that's it. You're only recognizing the reality. Okay, and what Trump needs to do is pull the cord on everything. Like he signed off on some more weapons going over there again. Well, now it's starting to shift from Biden's war to your war as you keep it going. Now you're trying to get peace, and I think Trump's learning it because of Witkoff. Thank God for Witkoff. Okay, I think Vance gets it much more so, but because he understands the globalist mentality and what's going on here, the resources, the money, and the investments we made, containing Russia. Okay, they don't care about the people there. Believe me, the way they've used 1 million dead Ukrainians is disgusting. So, I mean, that's what you have. But that's where the sides are. Where's where's the middle? Russia's not going to agree to a ceasefire, and Ukraine is only talking about a ceasefire. Oh, there you go. So how is this going to happen? I mean, are we heading to a stalemate? Are we heading to a frozen conflict? Okay, because Russia's not going past the Dnieper. But the more they wait and the more this war goes on, they're going to make it there. And then the question is, do they take Kiev and Odessa at the end of the day? So that's it. So if you don't want what I just mentioned to happen, then make the freaking deal while you still can. Well, you have something still. And that's the position to be at. So that was my quick video. I wanted to give an update on my take of what was going on in the Istanbul talks, the big beautiful bill. It's really not so beautiful. And the downgrade and what's going on in that ridiculous ruling by the Supreme Court and what he should do about it, which totally all for it. Suspend habeas corpus. Let's go. All right, so I'll be keeping out for those election results on Sunday. Any updates in the Ukraine, Russian summit, I guess we'll call it, in Istanbul, any other elections. There's still stuff going on between India and Pakistan I'm following. I mean, yeah, they're in a ceasefire, but they're not. It's not like it was last week. I think it was Friday night. When it looked like they were going to full war when they were hitting air bases and stuff. But there's still stuff going on there, an accusation. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens on the home economic and political front. Any more news on the tariffs coming out? You can follow me at my ex at Patriot Planner 1, and you can follow me on my Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, which I hope you did because I like making it, please like, follow, and share. All right. Have a great weekend and check my ex for some updates. All right. Thanks.